everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Football Podcast. Today, I am joined by Coast Watch Football. Lockie, how are you?
I'm doing really, really well. Thanks for having me on.
No, let's dive straight into it. Lockie, firstly, tell us a little bit about yourself and when you started supporting the Mariners.
Yeah, so I've been a Mariners fan since season one, and I was 9 years old when season one took place in the 05-06 season. I think I got my first membership in the 07-08 season, so a couple of years later. And look, me and my family, we've been supporting, since day dot through the high years when we won the championship in 2013. The low years, obviously, Mariners were really struggling for the last 5, 6 years or so. Majority of those years have been really rough for Central Coast Mariners fans, but in recent history, this season, last season, things are looking a bit more positive. And yeah, just been such a passionate fan ever since because it's the only professional team here on the Central Coast, so we all get behind it. That's for sure.
Now, a couple of years back, you started the Coast Watch Football podcast slash YouTube channel. Tell us a bit about that and how that all started.
Yeah. It's something that I wanted to do for a long time, and one of my passions growing up was radio, was video creation, was media, doing all this sort of stuff, stuff that you're doing, even this sort of stuff. It's really exciting doing stuff like that. And I already obviously had the passion for the Mariners and for football as a sport. And it came to the point where there was an opportunity for me to create something, and I saw a space as well where there wasn't really, like, there are creators out there such as yourself, it's even in the Australian football world, but we needed more people at the fan level, people like us that were just regular fans to be creating content, and that was the main reason behind starting this up. I wanted to bring excitement to my team, the Mariners, and to the A League. I wanted to bring passion back to it, and just to be a part of it. There's so many, as I mentioned, so many good creators out there, but there just needs to be more at that fan level, and hopefully we're seeing more and more come out. Be more and more startup things like this, start podcasts, start YouTube channels to promote the A League. It's all a lot of fun.
And tell us about what exactly you do on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so the YouTube channel is fun. I started up the YouTube channel a few months ago, because initially it was just like a weekly podcast that we're doing, just like me, sitting in front of a microphone recording each week. But the YouTube channel is fun because obviously that we can do a whole lot more visual stuff. So we started doing match day vlogs. We've been doing fan interviews outside the stadium at Mariners games, which has been really, really fun. It gives fans a chance to, it's one thing just listening to someone talk about the Mariners on YouTube, but being able to actually meet up in real life and discuss, that's something that I wanted to do from day one, that to make sure that it's not just me, it's a fan engagement thing, it's everyone involved. And on top of that, just discussing all things A League as well. So whether that is the big teams in the competition, the big matches that we saw on the weekend, because even though I'm a Mariners supporter, it's all about supporting the A League in general as well. So that's what the YouTube is, and I'm really pleased with how it's been growing so far.
Let's go straight into the A-League chat. A few teams that we're going to talk about. Firstly, Western Sydney Wanderers. Obviously, Carl Robinson left the club 3-4 weeks ago now, and they've brought Mark Rudin as their coach. How is he going so far, in your opinion? Obviously, still only early days, but how do you think he's going?
I think he's doing okay. He's had a couple of mixed results, 2 wins, 2 losses. There was in that first game in charge where they won 1-0 to Perth. There was a clear change in energy. There was a clear change in structure as well. He's made a couple tactical changes to this Wanderers side, some personnel changes, bringing Ziggy Gordon back, former Central Coast Mariner, which I think was a good move because I rate Ziggy as a defender. I think he's done all right, but look, Wanderers fans have made it clear that the problems are, it's not just simply changing the coach. They're going to fix the problems. We're hearing about things that are happening behind the scenes, higher up at Wanderers. And look, it's a tough time for Western Sydney Wanderers specifically, but I think Mark Rudan, and I think I might be unpopular in saying this, but I think he is the right man to bring in. His first season in charge of Wellington, his first season in charge of Western United took both those teams to finals, and those were big successes because Wellington were a team that were struggling initially, and Western United he took them to one game away from the grand final in their first ever year. It really was remarkable. So because of that, we really have to look at those achievements and think, okay, yeah, he could be able to do something with this Wanderers squad. It's still very early to say whether he's succeeding or not, but I think it's looking promising.
Now, something that we must talk about is Melbourne Victory. Obviously, they haven't won a game since Boxing Day. Look, they take on the Mariners tonight, but their last few games haven't been so good. What are your thoughts on the victory? Very interested to hear.
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting one. I'm glad you brought it up because it is one of the most fascinating stories at the moment because of how well they started this season. Tony Popovich comes in, revolutionizes the side, and they're playing with such confidence compared to what it was for them last season. But when you look at their last few matches, it's hard to say where it's gone wrong. They had an injury to Ryan Mashan. They're one of their key midfielders. Since he's left, they've sort of started going downhill a bit. But you can't just put it down to that. Whether it's a cup hangover, potentially, I'm not sure. But look, it is a fascinating one. There's no doubt they have the players to turn it around. So, look, I mean, as we're recording this tonight, my Mariners take on Melbourne Victory, and I'm worried. I'm still concerned because I'm hesitant about the Mariners potentially getting a result because Victory just has so much quality. Even though they haven't won a game since Boxing Day, on their day they've got players who could just turn it on. Ben Falami, Chris Economides, Marco Rojas. These guys are so good. So it's a fascinating one, but look, I think this will be just a small blip in the season for Melbourne Victory, and they should finish top four this season, I reckon.
Now let's talk about Brisbane Roar. They come off the back of a 3-1 win against Macarthur last week, and their last couple games they haven't been too bad. Can they make top six this season?
Can they make top six? I think the short answer is yes. Do I think they will? Probably not. Purely because there's just so many good teams competing for those, especially like the bottom few spots of the top six. In the top six and the ladder, it's just there's going to be so many teams there, and I think it's going to be down to the teams that have the best squad depth and the best consistency. And Brisbane Roar haven't shown either of those this season. In injury to their key central defender Tom Aldred, losing Macaulay Gillespie. They did bring in former Newcastle Jets central defender Connor Chapman just last week, which I think was a good signing. They're a funny team. I mean, 3 wins in the last 5 games. Can they finish top 6? Yes, they have shown enough. I mean, Mili Jusnic has been bagging a couple goals recently. He's looking like he's going to be the star man in an attack for them. But yeah, consistency is the thing for Brisbane Roar. I mean, they had a really good performance against Western Sydney Wanderers. They smashed them. They smashed Macarthur FC. But there's still nothing. There's still not enough there to convince me that they're going to be a top 6 side. Look, they always seem to make finals. Brisbane Roar teams are like always sneaking to the top 6, but this might be the year where Brisbane fall out and potentially maybe last season in charge for Warren Moon if it doesn't work out for Brisbane.
Let's chat about your team, the Mariners. In their last 4 A-League games, they've had 2 losses and 2 draws. What are your thoughts on your team so far this season? Obviously, they started off the season really well, and their last couple of matches haven't been so great. So what are your opinions on Mariners?
Yeah, look, overall, really pleased with how we're performing as a team. Obviously, results haven't necessarily gone our way. But honestly, and I'm trying not to be biased when saying it, and I'm sure you know, Harry, it's tricky when you're talking about your own team because you get caught up in the passion of it, and you always try to look on the positive side of things. But I genuinely think there's maybe only aside from 1 or 2 games, every game we've looked very, very, very good. Central Coast Mariners defensively so strong. I mean, just look at Kai Rolls, fantastic season so far, and he earned a Socceroos call up. I mean, that just goes to show how well we're performing at the moment. And we've been without for much of the season Ruan Tongic, who again another Socceroos who got a call up last year. We've been without him. So Lewis Miller's been fantastic. Jacob Farrell, of course, this young left back who was just exploded onto the scene in the A League. He's been fantastic. And of course, Ollie Bozanic leading the way, Marco Arena, Jason Cummings now on the Mariners side as well. Already grabbed a couple of goals so far this season in a matter of a few weeks. The problem at the moment, especially in recent weeks, has just been struggling to put away the chances when we have to, and that has cost us against Macarthur. Drawing 3-3 cost us on the weekend against Perth Glory 1-1. That was so frustrating to concede that late equaliser. And that's costing us at the moment because we easily could have won those 2 games and would have given us 6 points. And we came away from those 2 games with 2 points, a total of 2 points. And that's a big difference. That's 4 points difference. And that's a big deal in the A-League this year when it's so tight and competitive. So, look, overall, once again, I'm happy with how we're performing, but we just simply need to be killing off games and getting results. And we're not far away from doing that. As long as Cummings and Arena, they can get their partnership going, we'll definitely do it.
Let's chat about a few of the rescheduled fixtures for next week's game. There's only 3. There's a game on Tuesday and 2 games on Wednesday night. On Tuesday, the Mariners have to back up to play Melbourne City, who just beat the Jets 3-0. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, an interesting one because Melbourne City, for me, the best attacking team in the competition. Even though I mean, not every result has gone their way. I mean, they lost last week against Adelaide United at home. So look, they haven't been as perfect as maybe they were last year when they were very impressive. So there's some weaknesses there for Melbourne City. Defensively, they haven't been very good. They've been leaking goals this season. But attacking wise, when you look at Matt Leckie, Jamie McLaren leading the goal scoring charts, Andrew Naboot, Mark Attilio was fantastic against your boys Newcastle Jets. I mean, it's going to be a really fascinating game, very similar to the Victory one. I'm just very hesitant about my Mariners getting a result. I'm hoping we can come away with a draw. If we can draw to this high quality Melbourne City side, that would be a good result. And especially considering, I mean, we took on City last month and lost 3-1 at home. So look, they're a class above, especially when you look at the players in the park. So I would take a draw, honestly, against Melbourne City.
On Wednesday night, we have a double header starting off with Western United versus Sydney FC. Obviously, these two teams played each other a few weeks back, which ended up in a 1-1 draw on that wet night in Sydney. Western United have to back up from Sunday to play on Wednesday. How do you think that game will play out?
Yeah, look, we watched that Saturday that game the other Saturday when Western took on Sydney FC, and a really fascinating clash because Sydney FC have been looking a little bit better in recent weeks, and Western United, I mean, defensively so strong. I mean, they've got such a solid structure, and this one should be much the same. It was a 1-1 draw in that game, and I think it could well be the same result. Look, I'm fascinated to see how Western United first of all go this weekend against Western Sydney Wanderers. They should win that game. But if they don't, then there starts to be, there's a slight question mark heading into the game against Sydney FC because especially Sydney FC have this new winger Luciano Narsing coming into the side, so whether he's available for that game. Costa Barbarousse is coming back from injury. Adam Lafondra is back. Cam Sober's been playing well. Again, like there's a few teams in the A-League this season who attacking lineups are as strong as we've seen in the A-League. So, yeah, again, I think it'll be really close. I'm backing a 1-1 draw in that one. I think it'll be a tight one.
And now, lastly, for next Wednesday night, the Jets take on Western Sydney Wanderers. Obviously, the Jets are coming off the back of a 3-0 loss to City. Predictions for this game?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one because, well, specifically, I mean, when you look at Newcastle Jets and the way that they've been playing, I mean, well, actually, Harry, I mean, a question for you: how do you feel like your Newcastle Jets have been playing this season? Have you been happy with them?
They've been very inconsistent. I think that when you think about it, we don't have a good record up at Melbourne, but we ended up beating Melbourne 2-1 last week.
Mm.
Whether that red card to Brillante had some sort of impact on the game, it's a tough one. But look, I think since we've come back from that 6 weeks break, we've looked a bit sloppy. Our first couple of 3 games, obviously, we lost to the Mariners. I thought we could have got a draw out of that one. And then our last 2 other games, we had a few draws. So, look, it's tough. I don't know if we're a top 6 side. I know I shouldn't say that. But, look, if we can get Pena and Mikkel Tadze and Bumel, scoring goals, and hopefully we can sneak into the top 6.
Yeah, yeah. And look, Newcastle is again one of the sides for me who could be a top 6 side, especially as the players mentioned, Ed Nickeldazzi, Pena, I think are fantastic. Just, I mean, from the outside point of view, it's just defensively, it seems to be the concern. I think after the City game where they conceded 3 goals, I think Jets have the worst defense in the league now. I think it is. So look, if Jets can lock up the defense, and against the Western Sydney Wanderers squad who are still looking to get their own things sorted out, I think Newcastle at home will be hoping for 3 points in that one.
Really quickly, before we go on to the fan questions, let's just touch on Stefan Mook. Obviously, he, in my opinion, is one of the best midfielders in the comp, but it's a really weird situation going on with him at the moment. Obviously, a month ago, you even made a video saying Ben Halloran and Mook are departing Adelaide, and then since then, he hasn't left, and there's lots going on. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Yeah, it is a funny one. I think it was like the first week of January or something. It was ages ago. Yeah, I know what you mean. I made that video, and I sort of look a bit silly now because I was like, "Yep, Mork's leaving," and it's heading towards the end of February, and he's still here. Adelaide coach Calvert has basically confirmed that he's leaving, and it seems to be going on week by week. They sort of say it's like, "Oh yeah, this will probably be his last game," and then he sticks around, and they just seem to be waiting to get the final clearance over. So it's inevitable. I mean, it'll be happening within the next few weeks. I think the latest we've heard is that he'll be here till the end of February. So maybe just another game or two, and then potentially he's heading off. But yeah, a bit of a loss for Adelaide. But they've already brought in Zach Clough from England, who's an attacking midfielder to replace him. So they've got a ready-made replacement for Stephen Mock, which is good for Adelaide.
Let's go straight into the fan questions. Firstly, shout out to everyone who sent in the questions. Now, without putting you on the spot, Lockie, at Luke Allen 68 wants to know, what is the strongest starting 11 for the Mariners this season? Obviously, you talked about it on your podcast this week. In your opinion, what is your strongest lineup for the Mariners?
Well, I'll start with defense because that's the easiest place to start. I mean, Birigi you've got in goals, of course, and then a back four of Lewis Miller, Dan Hall, Kai Rolls, Jacob Farrell. Fantastic. I know, pardon me, I know Ruan Tongik was so great last season, but he's just not getting a look at the moment with the way Dan Hall's playing. Oli Bozanic is, in my opinion, maybe the best midfielder in the league. I think he's fantastic, and he's obviously starting every week. And then alongside, the rest of midfield is where it gets interesting. Up front, it has to be Cummings and Orenia at the moment. But in midfield, I think the strongest midfield at the moment is Harry Steele starting alongside Oli Bozanic, Josh Nisbet on the right. And I think I have to go Nikolai Muller on the left. And it's been interesting. Nikolai Muller has played a few games for the Mariners. He's already played, I think, 3 or 4 different positions up front, in the middle of the park, left-hand side, right-hand side. He's everywhere. So I think Nikolai Muller, maybe utilising him on the left-hand side. But for me, I think that's the strongest lineup for the Mariners, yeah.
Henry.free asks, who has been the best player in the A-League that you have watched live?
Ooh, that I've watched live. Ever or this season?
Oh, I have to check with Henry.
I can give you both if you want. Let's go ever. Yeah, let's go ever. Yeah. Oh, dude. Well, he probably is the best player to ever play in the A-League, and it's Thomas Broich. I mean, just the class. He was a class above, and I remember. I mean, it was about 10 years ago now. I think when he was playing for Brisbane Raw, and I remember when Raw came down to Central Coast Stadium. Raw have a really good record on the Central Coast too. They always make it tough for us. And Thomas Broich, just his danger when he was on the ball, his ability to take players on, his deliveries were fantastic as well. Chipped in with a few goals, of course, assists as well. I mean, yeah. I mean, I saw Del Piero play. That was fantastic. He came to the Central Coast as well. And yeah, those are probably the two that spring to mind. But Thomas Broich, probably, yeah.
Charlie Blair asks, who do you think will be the 2 teams in this year's A-League Men's Grand Final?
Oh, I love this question because it's really interesting, and it's a really fascinating debate. And as much as I'd love to say to see Mariners be there, I'm going to say, and this is a bit of a bold take, but I think it's going to be a Melbourne derby. I think it's going to be a Melbourne derby final. I think when you look at those 2 teams, I still think Melbourne Victory could well finish premiers, even though they're currently sitting 5th now in the ladder. I think they'll have a great second half of the season. I think they'll finish first, and I think Melbourne City will be there to meet them at the final day of the season. And how epic would that be? I mean, a sold-out Amy Park for sure. Melbourne City, Melbourne Victory, the biggest Melbourne derby at grand final. It would be absolutely epic. And yeah, just for me, 2 of the strongest teams in the competition by a fair margin too. I think those 2 Melbourne sides at the moment.
And the last question today is from Bull Banter. Bulls for top 6, yes or no?
Again, I mean, I feel like we've talked about it a couple of times here, but for me, again, MacArthur, another one of the sides who will be vying for the bottom half of the top 6. I think 5th or 6th. Look, they started the season so well. They were like coming first for like the first few weeks there. But again, in recent weeks, they've shown some weaknesses, some inconsistency. Ante Milicic still looking for his right formation. You know, whether they play 3 at the back or 4 at the back, that he keeps flipping and changing. Look, if they can get their key players, Craig Noon, Danny De Silva, De Vere performing, then yes, absolutely. I mean, all those guys, those are finals players. Those guys, they get to find the right man to be banging in the goals. Though, whether it is Apostolos, Gianni, who they brought in, does Tommy Urich come back from injury, and how does he slot into the squad? We've got Lockie Rose there, Al Hassan Toure as well. So my question is, who's going to be banging in the goals for MacArthur this season? But look, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say they will be one of those teams around there sneaking in potentially for a top 6 place.
Lockie, well, that wraps it up for today. I would like to say an absolute massive thank you for coming on the podcast today. It means a lot. And lastly, good luck for the Mariners versus Victory game tonight.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks, Harry, and all the best for the Jets game against Wanderers on Wednesday. It should be an interesting one, and keep up all the good work, man. It's as I mentioned, it's good for the fans to be doing more stuff like this. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
No worries. Cheers.